What's going on, guys? And today we're doing my off-season preview, kind of like predictions. If you guys haven't been here before, I've done this for at least the 3, maybe 4 years now, where at the start of the off-season for every single team, I go ahead and just talk about every aspect of the team's offseason. Who's going to be a free agent? Who do we have options? Who do I think is going to get their options picked up? If it's a team option or if it's a player option, do I think they're going to get accepted, or are they going to try to get more money? Do I think we're going to trade? What I think with the impending moves. And then obviously when the lottery comes, we do our full legit predictions. So right now, we're just kind of doing the preview and just looking at the roster and just giving us a primer on what's going to happen. So if you guys haven't followed before, hit that like and subscribe button if you guys want more content like this. I do every team in the league. I work for USA Today Sports Hoops Hype as a multimedia journalist. So check out and let's get to it. So my Washington Wizards, I'm a Wizards, Orlando Magic, and Minnesota Timberwolves fan. If you guys been around the channel, you guys know I was born in Minnesota, lived there till I was 5, then Orlando 5 to 9, and then Maryland 9 to 19. And now I live in Miami. Now, the Wizards went 15-67. They right now have the odds to land a top 4 pick. Right now, they're slotted at number 2. They also have the 26th overall pick from the Clippers, and they have the 51st pick from the Phoenix Suns in the second round. Their odds for the first pick are 14%, and their free agents right now, unrestricted, is going to be Anthony Gill, who I think is going to leave. He'll probably go be a vet on probably a playoff team that needs some size. Richaun Holmes has a player option, and TBH, I think he picks up that player option because Richaun Holmes is probably not getting paid that much money in free agency. Then we have Tyus Jones, who is an unrestricted free agent. I expect us to, probably make a competitive offer to keep him because we probably want to keep him and then down the road trade him, as we wouldn't want to just lose him uncompensated. While Tristan Vukovic and Jules Bernard both have team options that I think we'll pick up because they're young guys and we're rebuilding and we just need bodies. So from what we're hearing, Bobby Marks wrote, before the start of training camp, Michael Winger, the president of the Monumental Sports, which is the overarching entity for the Wizards, he refused to use the word rebuild, as the Wizards went to finish with the fewest wins in franchise history, lost at least 6 games in a row, 6 different times, including 16, games in a row at one point, and had a defense in 28th rating in efficiency. So we were freaking terrible. And Michael Winger is a guy who started out in Oklahoma City, so with Will Dawkins. Then Michael Winger went to be the GM of the Clippers. He's a guy who emphasizes that we need to build the right way. It's heavy lift, hard decisions, a lot of patience, intense focus, and player development are huge parts. And the hard decisions have already started with, us having to trade Bradley Beal, Kristaps Porzingis, Monte Morris, Daniel Gafford, and then flipping Chris Paul. And obviously, I think instead of focusing on trying to build from the middle like our previous organization was trying to do, the new regime is focusing on making sure that they have the right next coach. They tested out Brian Keefe, who's going to get consideration. I personally think Brian Keefe is their guy. He's an Oklahoma City guy. He has ties to both Will and Michael Winger. And when they got hired, they weren't allowed to fire Wes Unseld. And from what I understood was they replaced Wes Unseld's lead assistant with Brian Keefe as a wink, this is our guy. So I think the part of the reason we haven't heard much of the Wizards coaching search either is because it's all hush-hush, because I think Brian Keefe is going to be the coach, in my opinion. But we're focusing on that, making 2 first-round picks. We're going to have a lottery pick, and we're going to have a late-round pick in a draft that they're outside the top 5 picks, between 6 and 60 overall or whatever, 58 overall picks, how many picks we have this year, because I think maybe one was forfeited, maybe none are forfeited. They're almost all at the same level, bro. It's kind of crazy, the talent disparity. Now, the other thing is Tyus Jones is supposedly, from all I've heard, is someone we want to re-sign and continue to develop a lot of cool volley, and Tristan Vukovic is huge. So the offseason, we prioritized getting, those draft assets, and we also took on Holmes and Marvin Bagley. Marvin Bagley finished out the year great for us. And now with $115 million in guaranteed salary, 17.6 of non-guaranteed, and an additional $14 million are going to have to be put in a cap hold for those 2 first-round picks if we do select them, plus maybe even that second round pick. So Washington is projected to be over the salary cap, but Landry Shamit's $11 million non-guaranteed deal becomes guaranteed if he's not waived by June 29th. So I would not be surprised if we try to move that contract. If we can't move him, we upright just will waive him. Now, Holmes has until June 29th to opt into his deal, and the Vukovic deadline is also June 29th to pick up. While the Wizards should have the flexibility to remain below the $171 million luxury tax if they re-sign Jones and use the $12.9 million non-tax player mid-level exception, they also have the biannual $4.7 million exception available. And the Wizards still have 5 trade exceptions of $12.5 million, $12.4 million, $9.8 million, $5.4 million, and $3.5 million. One thing you should know, you cannot pair the trade exception with an asset. I believe I think you might be able to do a pick, but I don't think you might not even be able to trade a pick. I think you can just do it to take on salary in a trade if you were like a salary dump in a 3-team trade. And you can't combine them, so they can only use one trade exception at a time. So, to be blunt, what Bobby Marks says is we need to figure out our coach, which I completely agree. We need to figure out our coach. Again, I think it's Brian Keefe just because of organizational ties and how quiet our coaching search has been. We've been, needing a coach just as long as everybody else. The Nets have already hired their coach, and we still have not even announced really a pool of interview candidates. So that's something we have to do. And, obviously, Brian Keefe helped this team improve defensively over the season, even though, we went 8-30 under him. I think they want someone who's a good player development coach. And so kind of like how Mark Daigneault was for OKC after Billy Donovan. That's what they're probably looking for, especially with these guys being OKC guys. And if the Wizards keep both first-round picks, they'll have 3 players under 23. And they need someone maybe with some head coaching experience that can manage the locker room. The new head coach has to connect with Kyle Kuzma, Jordan Poole, and then young guys. All right, as Poole and Kuzma are both under contract till 26, 27. And unless they're going to be traded in the near future, those two are going to be some pillars that you're going to be relying upon. And we can point to recent hirings and eventual turnarounds in Orlando with Jamal Mosley, Sacramento with Mike Brown, Minnesota with Chris Finch, New Orleans with Willie Green, OKC with Mark Daigneault, and Houston with Ime Udoka. And you'd think that, those coaches played a huge part. Granted, those teams all had De'Aaron Fox, Domantas Sabonis, Karl-Anthony Towns, Zion Williamson, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander at some point, or not at some point there to start, or were drafted the year those coaches took over. So instead of selling the point of, having all this capital and stuff, it's more of, hey, we're going to foster a partnership, and we're going to take a patient approach that you're going to grow with this team. We're not going to Brett Brown you that once you do get to that point, we're going to discard you. No, you're going to grow with us. So I think that's the biggest thing. And the Wizards finished bottom 3 in defensive efficiency and have 12 players under contract. So the idea is this is going to be a multi-year plan of creating winning habits, a solid culture that the players can identify themselves within, that they can also use it as their identity on the court. And the new head coach has to be aligned with the front office, hence why I think it's going to be Brian Keefe. And that's going to have to start with bringing in Tyus Jones. That guy had 12 points, 7.5 assists, 48, almost 49% from the field, 41% from 3. He averaged less than 1 turnover for the 9th consecutive season. He did miss a month for his back, but again, I think it's huge having even though Tyus Jones is not an elite point guard, he is a top 30 point guard in the NBA. And having a guy who can actually create for others is huge because it won't make people just it won't stop the ball. So allegedly the Wizards are going to be aggressively approaching extension talks with Corey Kispert, who averaged a career high 13.5 points and played 70 or more games for the third consecutive season. His 459 3-pointers are the most in a Wizards' first 3 seasons, 359 3-pointers made. And per cleaning the glass, Kispert ranked in the 89th percentile of all forwards in points per shot attempts and effective field goal percentage. Kispert shot 76.0% from the restricted area and ranked 10th among players with at least 150 attempts. So that's huge. And besides hiring, their coach and identifying their core players, they need Bilal Coulibaly to take a jump. Okay, and in 63 games, he averaged 8.5 points. He started 15 games, but he only shot 26.6% from 3. And Bilal Koulibaly is going to be a guy that, for me, if he does not take those jumps, I mean, this guy has OG Anunoby potential. That's like no joke. Very similar frame, very similar setup. So the whole thing with a guy like Bilal Koulibaly is, yeah, he averaged 4.7, a steal a game, and he was a guy that, if you look, shot 54% true shooting, which is like pretty solid for a guy. And if you look at his month by month, his last month in March, where he played 7 games, he was putting up 10 points, and his best true shooting was in November and December, where he was putting up about 3 threes a game at 47% in November. Again, like through 14 games, and then through 14 games again in December, he shot 36%. So there, there's flashes. Again, low volume, but that's something that they need. Now, they've been able to take really bad contracts in Bradley Beal and Chris Paul and Kristaps Porzingis. I love him. I don't know why he had such bad flack, but he took over last year and he's acquired 2 first-round picks, 4 years of pick swaps, and a first-rounder from Phoenix and 11 second-round picks. The first from Golden State in 2030 is top 20 protected, while Washington still owes New York a first-round pick that is a top 10 protected in 2025 and top 8 protected in 2026 if it hasn't been paid by then. Washington will just send the Knicks its own 26 and 27 second-round picks. The earliest that Washington can trade that pick as its own is, or not trade its pick, trade their own picks is in 2028. So we have a lot of options there, and I think it's going to be fun. I want to hear you guys' thoughts on what we should do.